Hello there, Tony Meadley once again, and welcome back to my workshop. I've had a couple of comments regarding the rings on a segmented bowl and could I go into more detail. I thought I was, but obviously I wasn't. So what I'm going to do for today's project is to make a ring. I'll do it in oak and Sapele with Sapele flex, and I think I might later on I'll do a one on the tilt, but that's for a later project. But I'll go into fine detail and I'll make a complete ring, show you how I start right the way through to the finished product once it's glued up. Right, what we're going to do first of all is set the sled up. A very important part, because if you don't get it right, then obviously you will not get the ring to be gap free. So I have these wedges. I don't know whether you can see that. This one is a 16 segment pair ring, that one is 20, and that one is 30. I just hope you can see them. A one that I got from my local artist shop was a 30 degree, which gives you 12 segments per ring, and that's what we're going to use. So we'll put it inside, make sure that you get it thick enough so that it'll fit. And obviously these the jig itself will move. What I try to do is get these two gaps approximately the same, and it must be tightened right up, so they don't have to be exactly the same, but within reason. Just tighten that up and then make sure that that is absolutely tight, a nice tight fit. Right, so that's the sled set for 12 segments per ring. Now the base that I'm going to use is the circumference is 800 millimeters. So if you divide that by 12, it will give you 66 millimeters, and that's the long side of a segment. But because we're going to put a fleck of Sapele in of 3 millimeters, we need to set the guide, the length, to 63 millimeters. What we must do first, and I say this every time, and it's so easy to forget, is to put a wavy line down one end and a straight line down the other. The reason that we do that is I can assure you that most saw blades will be out, and it's a way to compensate, and you'll see later on, I'll explain it. So if you just wind it up just to about, I use between 1/4 and 1/2 inch above the cut that you're going to make. And what we're going to do now is we're going to make, I have the two arms or the guides on my sled numbered 1 and number 2. So you're going to make the first cut on number 1, the second cut on number 2, the third cut back onto number 1, and the fourth cut back onto number 2. You don't have to go to the outside, turn it over, do anything. So you keep it with the line facing you and the wiggly part on the top. So what we'll do now, we will cut 12 segments. Right, it's time to cut the 12 segments rings as I've just said, and the way that we do it, as I said earlier on, is cutting the first one on number 1. I'm sorry about the noise, you can hear the hoover going, I've got that to my table saw. What you'll end up with is 6 with lines on the short side and 6 without any lines. They will have them on the rear of the segment. So what we need to do now is cut 12 flecks of 3mm wide of pieces of sapele. Right, all I've done, I've measured the length of that and the width, and it's so important that you get them reasonably the same size. So all we're going to do is cut 12 pieces 3mm wide, and then obviously they can go in between the segments. Right, what you'll end up with is obviously 12 pieces of 3mm length of sapele, 6 segments with no line, 6 segments with the line on the front. I appear to be one short. There it is there. Right, this is another one which is so important. What you haven't to do is sand that down, because that's the angle what you're going to do. So just take the fuzzies from the 2 fronts. The back should be okay. If there's anything on there, just give it a quick mark along, just to take the fuzzy. And that's for my friend in the USA, Fuzzies. Joe, hope you enjoyed that. As I keep repeating, please don't take anything off there. That's going to be the angle what goes in between the flecks. Now these flecks of sapele, all they have to be is parallel, and I'll tell you how we sand them down. But what we'll do now, we'll carry on sanding all of these down, and then we'll sand the bits of sapele down. Now it's time to take the fuzzies off the little slithers of sapele. You can see them there. Now all we've got to do ensure is that this is parallel. So it's 3mm, and because I've cut it on the bandsaw, you will get little ripples on there. So you can do that as long as you keep the even pressure on each finger, and just rub it down. Turn it over and try to get it so that it's reasonably smooth. Then removing the fuzzies on the side, and then that side. And then you get it reasonably smooth. You will keep the little marks, but the glue will fill that up. So we'll continue on with the 12 now, or the other 11, until we get 12. What I find best to do is to do a dry run, and what we do, we take the top one with the line or without the line, whichever way you want to do it, a fleck of sapele either side, and in this case I take 2 without the line and put that on, couple of more flecks, 2 with the line, a couple of more flecks, 2 without the line. And if you notice, I'm doing the wiggly line on all the way around, and the reason that I'm doing it, one with a line, one without, it's in case your blade's out, so it saves you turning it over, and that will compensate if your blade's out slightly. And I can assure you, most blades are out, and it only needs to be the slightest little bit. 2 with the line, without the line, the reason I do the dry run, I clamp it up, and then you can see if there's going to be any gaps, just in case there's a little bit of dust or a little bit of chippings have fell into it. So, ensuring that they've all got the wiggly line on the top, they're all one with the line, without the line, with the line, without the line, right the way around. And then we will put a band on it just to ensure that it's pulled up nice and tight and it's just no gaps in it whatsoever. Just before it's finally nipped at home, just make sure that they're all pushed out and the sapele is right to the strap itself. Then go ahead and nip it up. Right, as you can see, there is no gaps whatsoever. What I do when I've glued it up, I just give it a gentle tap with a rubber hammer, just to ensure that they're all level. They're not exactly level, but it's just to make sure that their angle's right, and everything is fine. As you can see, there is no gaps whatsoever. I'm trying to get them in just to show you that there isn't a gap all the way around. Right, it's time to glue it up. I always use a little bit of cling film. I'd rather just throw the cling film away than have to clean my press every time. You don't need to put it in a press. The only reason I do it is just to put them down and keep them level. We'll get on, and obviously, as you can see, there is, I think I've showed you before, there is no gaps whatsoever. We will take the ring off it. I find it best if you just have a little piece of card or cardboard, anything. I've got a glossy piece out of a magazine. I just find it a lot easier just to pour it onto there. Ensure that it's all covered either side, and then just work your way around. I just find it easier, that's all, when you're doing it from the card. Right, I've tightened it up. Just take the foil off, or the cling film. And as you can see, they're all nice, tightly jointed. Now it's time to glue the ring with others to make whatever you're making, a bowl in this case. What it's also best to do with having the flecks is mark the centre on a fleck and then the centre of a segment. It's just so that you get all these staggered in the correct order. So we put the glue on. And then spread it round. Till you get it covered all over. It will push out, but I'm going to give you a tip now, which I was introduced and I was a little bit cautious of it, dubious, whichever way you want to call it, and it physically does work. I've tried and tested it, and what it is, it's a simple little thing, and it's called, when you put these on, they normally slide around, you know, with the glue. You just get a little bit of salt, and I mean a little bit, very fine salt, and just, I thought it might have done something to the chemistry of the salt, and I can assure you it works. It makes it as strong as, you know, what it always does, and it stops your slippage. So I've got the little mark there, if you just see, and then if I line it up both sides, I've done it both sides, and I can assure you there will be no slippage whatsoever. It gives you just the right hold, and it doesn't do anything to the glue whatsoever. I thought it might have weakened it, but I've had one on test for ages, and I can swear by it anyway. Because normally if you do this without the salt, this would be sliding about all over. So yes, it actually does work. It's absolutely superb, to be quite honest, so I would highly recommend it. You only need the slightest little bit on. Once again, and I got this from McDonald's. The reason that I don't use mine, and I'll have to buy some, is I normally, within the house, we use the sea salt and use it in a grinder, and you get big pieces of it, which you don't want in this case. So if you just line it up again, yes, it works absolutely fantastic, so I highly recommend it. More salt, and it's just the slightest little bit. check that the lines haven't moved. No, that salt's doing its job. And then tighten it up. As you can see there, the lines have all matched up. It hasn't moved whatsoever. Just give it a final nip. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that you got something out of it. It does seem as if it's a hard thing to do, but you can see there they're perfect. The angle is perfect. There is a bit of a chamfer in them because I always just rub the fuzzies off the corners, and as I say, you always make sure that the wavy line's on one side, and I don't think you can see there. You'll get one with the line, one without, one with the line, and so on. The one that I physically made up was the one with the flex in, and you can see perfect angles. When you glue them together, what I always find is that it makes it a lot easier if you just put a little mark on when I can find it, and all you do is where the fleck of Sapele is, put a little mark, and then in the centre of the wedgie, or the segment, sorry, then put a mark on there, and then when you glue them together, obviously get them all lined up, and it makes it so much easier. That's the one that I've prepared. Obviously when you glue them all up, and it's just ready for turning. As you can see there, there's the marks what I've just been on about. It makes it nice and simple to glue them together again, and then obviously that's just ready for turning. A one that I haven't finished off as yet. I haven't even put sand and sealer, and all I've done, I've just turned it down, and as you can see, they're nice and straight. Stagger them, but make sure that they're nice and straight, and that's the only way you'll do it, is by putting a little mark on. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed that video and you got something out of it. People ask, what's the hardest part about segmenting? The hardest part, or the most important part, there's no hard part about it, it's so simple. The most important part is making sure that you've got a nice robust sled, but the most crucial thing is the wedgie what fits in it to set the angle, and you only have to be 1/1000 of an inch out, and by the time you put 16 pieces together you'll have a gap of a millimetre or whatever. So you can make them in 50% and then obviously grind them down or sand them down, but you're better off investing in, I would recommend, and honestly I'm not getting paid by Jerry Bennett. I purchased mine from America. Go to Jerry Bennett's website, and I would recommend that you only want a 12, a 16 and a 20 if that, and you have to pay import tax, which is about £12. So for the price of say 3, that's all you'll need. You're talking, I don't know, £36 or something like that with all your import tax on, or possibly excluding the import tax. Anyway, go on his website and then you'll see for yourself. The ones that you can buy in the UK, I've found that they're a little bit small, and you need to put a piece of wood in, and it's so crucial that has to be parallel. If it's a little touch out, then it knocks all your angles out. So that's just my opinion. If you want to get perfect wedges every time, visit Jerry Bennett's website and purchase from there. Anyway, if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'll leave a link to my website if you want to purchase anything, so that'll be in the description. And all I can say is thanks for watching, and I'll catch up with you on the next video. Bye now.